over the last few days with a lot of new awarenesses coming in. I don't even know where to begin. I'm just going to start. I don't know where to begin, but I need to speak. So I've moved through a couple of deep levels of emotions, trauma, etc., that I was holding on to. And I don't want to go into all that right now. But I know that I need to share what I'm seeing right now. And part of the healing that I've been doing over the last, well, I guess like a week now, is really coming more into the essence of who I am and being not pushed is not the right word, but guided into a more authentic version of self in whatever way that looks like. That's what I believe we all get called to, is becoming who we are, whatever that looks like. And there's no right way, wrong way, do this, don't do that, etc. It's just truly being able to embody the essence of who you are and allow that truest version of you to be able to shine through. Now, if you don't know who I am and you don't know anything that I'm talking about, some of this may just be like really stupid. But for those who have heard some of the things that I talk about, there was a thought or a vision that has come to me today that I'm hoping will help others be able to understand how I see our existence and how my view of everything is. And it is different from most people. And at first, there's so many feelings you get about that, because when you start tapping into your own spirituality and you start removing those layers of the healing, because honestly, it's in the removal of those healing layers is what allows you to fully start embracing the essence of who you are and your own spirituality. And you'll do it in many different ways. And you could be like me, who was someone who thought they were truly expressing themselves in the most authentic way, but there's still more, there's always more. So I'm going to try and do the best to try and explain the way that I see everything. I speak a lot about us being an energetic vibrational frequency, because when I first started tapping into my own spirituality, funny I use the word tapping, because tapping was actually one of the modalities that allowed me to start releasing a lot of those emotions and beliefs that I was holding on to. But allowing the spirituality to come through and then really starting to connect to the essence of self and the possibilities of what's out there started to bring in the illusion. And I'll use that word because everything is literally an illusion, because it's a result of our own energetic vibrational frequency and where we're at and the things that we hold to be true for us, and they show up in certain ways of how we allow them to manifest into our lives. So the visions I would see in my mind, I'm going to try and explain this as best as I can with words, but it can be super difficult when we're talking about things like that, because it's a vibration. How do you describe a vibration in words? So the way that I see it is, it always started as strands. It always started as, if you could imagine, colored thin strands. And that is how I saw our existence. What eventuated from that was more of symbols and bringing in codes or sigils or light language, whatever word you want to use, insert there, to bring in the essence of the things I was talking about or the intentions that I was having in those moments. It eventuates as you continue on your journey, you continue healing, you continue removing those layers, there's more and more of that spirituality, more and more of that unknown that really starts to surface. And it's like this balance. And it's not, oh, you have to suffer to get the good stuff. It's just the way it evolves. And you don't have to suffer. It's just a new level of awareness that has come in for me in various stages for whatever reasons, but allowing those healing layers to remove, and I don't think we have to heal forever, allowing them to remove allows me to tap more into this great unknown. So going from those vibrational strands of existence, moving more into colors and seeing how they intertwined. And eventually it was like I could see the consciousness that we were in at the time. So it's like seeing, like, just imagine seeing the vibrational frequency of everything in this earth and what people were thinking about, what people were moving their energy towards. So if there was something on a very big dramatic world scale, and there was a lot of energy on it because it was affecting a lot of people had opinions, whether they're good, bad, against, for, there'd be a lot of energy. And you could see that in these energetic strands, because that's where the bulk of the energy was when people were aligning with certain thoughts or ideas or experiences. And people refer to sort of this visionary type scenarios as the collective consciousness. It's like the average of what everyone is thinking. So if there's 100 people and 75 of them are thinking the same way, well, that's where the majority are. So I can see that in the levels of that vibrational frequency. So fast forward as we sort of keep moving through those layers of healing and understanding and allowing new things to come through, that vision for me would change, it would grow, coupled with moving through some pretty heavy healing. And let's be real, it's mostly related to the grief. And grief is, it is the ultimate powerful emotion. And it's like if you had to put everything on a scale with emotion, grief is going to be the one that packs the biggest punch. And because it also can hold so many other emotions with it. It's not just, oh, this is grief, this is what it looks like. Grief can actually come out in sort of laughter. It can come out in insanity. It can come out in sadness. It's not just, oh my goodness, I'm so sad because of this loss. So grief for me has really, it's been the epitome of everything that I go through. And having those moments is what has driven the spirituality through it. So moving through grief on its own is a personal journey for everyone. And I can't tell you what it looks like for everyone. It's going to look different for everyone, but mine helped me walk hand in hand with my spirituality journey. It's hard to kind of put it into words. Like grief can put you into the depths of a hellish experience, to the ultimate feeling of nope, I'm done, I'm not doing this, I'm out. But then it can also lead you to such a beautiful level of growth and understanding and new awareness that it's like, wait, what? And that doesn't make sense. And this is only me speaking from my experience, because it's using or allowing or understanding the power of that emotion. Because I'm pretty sure most people have experienced a high emotion, whether it's anger or sadness or love or happiness or excitement. You know, when you were in the most heightened part of that experience, that it is so intense. And I'm not going to give it a good or bad description. It is intense, whether it is intense love, whether it is intense happiness or intense sadness. There is an intensity to it. And with grief has its own intensity to it. And that intensity can be translated into other experiences, other emotions, and other awarenesses. And it's not as in grief, the sadness, it's as in grief, the power of it. So if you had to put it on a scale and you know, out of 100, grief was 100, well, you use that 100 scale to have that same level of feeling across all those other emotions. So it's not just saying, oh, grief, it's just sadness and pain. It's grief is a powerful emotion. So if I'm at 100 with that grief, I want 100 in love. I want 100 in financial abundance. I want 100 in happiness and enjoying everything that I'm doing. So the grief allowed me to understand the power of that emotion on it as a scale of the power of it, not as in the power of the pain. And I'm hoping I'm really trying to make sense, because it's so much easier to understand and feel than it is to try and put it in words and try and portray it to someone else, because it's unique to you and your own experience and your own feeling. But part of that grief has allowed so much more of that level of spirituality to come through, that there was one of those grief moments that pushed me out of that existence that I saw. And I'm going to say that this is how I was seeing the light. This is how I was seeing the light grid. And to me, the light grid is a set of beliefs that the collective believes in. And I'll go more into that shortly, but so seeing the light grid as these waves and seeing how the energy sort of moves to where people are talking. So I'm talking about seeing it on a broader scale. If I brought it in, because I'm very much about the zooming in and out, if I brought it in to apply it to my own self, then I would see, oh, I'm over here. Oh, okay, now I'm over here. And we would just move through these vibrational strings, if you like, depending on where we were with our beliefs, where we were with our understandings, where we were with the things we desired, etc. But in one of the extreme moments of grief, it was like, I've had enough of this light grid, this collective understanding, this collective knowing. And earlier, before that sort of moment, there were a lot of moments when I was in the library where I would have a lot of connections to different collectives. And to me, collectives are another vibrational existence out there, another dimension, another timeline, another, however you want to look at it. To me, it was a version of myself, but perceived in a different form. So in sort of easy to understand terms, it's like, okay, there's an alien that exists over in this star planet, and I am connecting to them with my mind and asking them questions because they are superior to me, they know more than me, and I am getting information to help me right here, right now, in this place where I am, to continue moving forward into whatever and whoever I am supposed to be. So that was my vision of collectives, and there are a lot, and I had a lot of them. And also the concept of guides, which is, it could be a loved one who's passed over. It could be an angel. It could be an ascended master. Whatever you sort of viewed at in your existence, these are things that I would connect to. And I had my whole range of people in there of collectives and guides and things that I would speak to as extensions of myself that were existing in other realms or other dimensions and planets, etc. So towards the end and before that grief hole I went into, there was a collective that came in. I don't have names or anything, but they showed me how to vibrate out of the light grid. And I've spoken about all this when I'm talking about going from the light to the dark, but I just want to give you some context to it. So having that knowledge and not really understanding, because I still have the notes somewhere, because I tried to draw them and it's terrible drawing, but it was like a gist. They were literally like a grid, like the lines crossed. That's what they were made up of. And it was showing me how to vibrate out. And it wasn't just the light grid, it was how everything's a grid. So even me believing that I have to get gray hair over a certain age, it's everything's a grid and we can vibrate out. And once we no longer believe in it, then it no longer happens to us. And that's the whole basis of my understandings of everything anyway. But having that knowledge, then moving through the grief, and then that was when I found the dark. There's videos about that and that whole story. But that then gave me an awareness of something different to the light that I was in. And when I'm talking about the dark, I just want to say this is not demons and devils and, you know, wanting to murder people. I'm not saying that the light is heaven and the dark is hell. That's not how I view it. And I talk about that a little bit later. But going from the light, say it's like this, and we go into the dark, which is like the opposite of the light. So imagine we're looking at a mirror. So we're over here in the light, and it's no, I don't like that. Okay, I want something different. Okay, now we're over here in the dark, and the dark is a mirror. It operates differently to the way the light was. And so as I was coming into this new awareness and understanding, sort of feeling into it, that then eventually evolved into something else completely. That was then tied in with the final release of my husband's ashes and the discovery of the luminescent field. Now, the luminescent field is something that came in by itself as well. And words to describe it are difficult, but if you can imagine an iridescent color of taking out all the pieces of the light and the dark, but like the good bits, like the little fiery pieces, it's like getting all the glittery parts out of both of those fields. That's the best way I can describe it. But going deeper into that, and this is a vision that I've had this morning, and this is why I'm actually speaking, this is what I'm actually getting to, is that the way that I used to see these things, and they change all the time, because I 100% believe that we are always evolving, expanding, and learning new knowledge and understanding new things in different ways. I always saw when anyone would talk about the light grid and ask me questions about tapping into this or that, the light grid was always here. I always saw the dark grid over here, and I always wondered, why was it outside of me? And yes, I can get in there and go, okay, let's go put me in here. What does this look like? How does this sort of extend from my version of self? Because I always thought, well, why is it over there? Why is it over there? Why aren't I in it? Don't I exist in that? But there are a lot of instances and a lot of visions that I've had that now make more sense. So this is the image I've got this morning, and now this is making so much sense. So once I started to understand these vibrational strings of the universe, they eventually evolved into more circular patterns. And I would describe my knowledge as these circular ideas where I would hop on and hop off. So this circle would be circling, then I'd hop off because they're all joined together, and I would hop off and I would be on this one. And I could be on here with thousands of people, and then I could hop off. I could be on this one by myself. I could come back over here, and then I'd be on this one, because as I was starting to move through my own understandings, I started to realize that there was no one way, there was no right way, and that there were so many opinions, and everyone had different thoughts and different viewpoints and different ideas of our existence and what we need to do. I came to the conclusion, well, that all makes total sense. Because before it was a lot of like, oh, what am I supposed to believe in? I don't know. And I was taught from many coaches, trust your own truth, tap into, is that a yes for you? Is that a no for you? And it's super hard where my answers will be indecisive. Like well, that's a yes, but that's also a yes. So I started to grasp more of understanding that, well, they're both correct. What that person's saying and what that person's saying is both correct. And it's only because of their unique experience and their own unique view of their life or where they are right now. And so once I started that awareness, that's where the circles sort of started to come in. So those strands turned into circles. But what happened is, as I'm moving through new layers of understanding and learning, these circles have turned into spirals. So whilst I was talking about being on this one circle, when I'm talking about a circle, I'm talking about, it could be an idea, it could be a thought pattern, it could be a group of people, it could be an experience. So that's what I mean when I'm talking about these circles. So these circles now turn into spirals. So what happens is, even though I'm on this circle right here, right now, and I'm believing this, or I'm doing this, or I'm hanging out with these people, and then at some stage it's like, no. And then when we're going on to something else, then we move to something else, and then we come back over here. Because we've done all these other things over here, when we're coming back on this circle, it's a different level. So if you can imagine that spiral's just got all these different layers, and it's going to look like it's going up and down, but there's no hierarchy in any of this. It's just depth. So you got to imagine that it's all depth. It's not, oh, now I know more. Oh, down there I knew less. So it's just depth to it. So if I'm hopping back on this circle and the spiral is spiraling, instead of me being here where I was last time, now I'm here. So you could look at it at like digging a hole, and you're just further down the hole because you know more. And that sounds like the opposite of knowing more, digging a hole. But it's just that new level of awareness. It's that new understanding. It is deeper and it becomes bigger. So with those spirals, even though they are circling, they may be, if you want this for your visionary type assistance, imagine that they get bigger as you return to the circle or to the spiral, because your knowledge is greater. So imagine you were a kid, right? And you're down here on this spiral, and this is all you know when you first start school is, you start learning your ABCs, then you start learning words, then you start learning sentences. So that spiral starts to get bigger and bigger, but you're still talking about English, or whatever language, you're still talking about letters and forming them together. So you're still on that circle, but your depth and awareness just keeps getting bigger and bigger. And that's how I see our existence and our understandings of everything else that is happening or is out there. So once I could grasp onto that, and because I was no longer in the light grid. So just say, if you look at the light grid and you think, okay, this is me, I'm moving towards my highest timeline, and I can see myself here, and this is where I want to be. This is what my highest timeline is, and this is what I'm aiming towards. I'm just going to pause for a second because there's a track. So when you know that timeline's there, that is how I used to do this, where we could see possible timelines and we could collapse and we could join them together, we could move towards what we want. That was how, for me, I was seeing the light grid and how we achieved the things we want, how we were working towards our goals and desires. Then you flip over to the dark, and it's more of portals and jumping in holes and jumping out in other places. And the light grid to me was very liney. The dark grid was more curly lined. So there were two different ways that you would sort of determine how you were going to manifest. And now moving into this luminescent field and understanding this whole spiraling of our knowledge and our understanding, it's like, well, how do you find or work towards those desires that you want, or those experiences or things that you were trying to manifest in your life? And I've actually never really tapped into it for a while now, because I've moved more into this whole creative sense of, once you really get in tune with who you are, when you start engaging in your own creativity and your own joy and those things that bring you happiness, those things where you're not thinking about things anymore, when you are engaged in those activities that light you all the way up, that's when you are in the truest element of yourself. And that can be absolutely anything. So it can be you when you're baking a cake, it can be you when you're mowing a yard or cutting hair, or whether you're painting a masterpiece, or even just doing your everyday job. Maybe you're super good at it. Maybe you know that when you're in that element, when you are solving a problem for someone, it's like, oh, this feels so good. I love this. So I found, for me, when I was in that purest form of my creativity, and at the moment that is, for me, so many different things are starting to come on board that are really lighting me up, like drawing or painting or creating designs or creating social media or creating programs or videos or talking about things or making things. All those things are lighting me up. So my whole idea was, I'm going to step more into that, because that's what feels good. And we are chasing the feel good. No one wants to go, what's something that really sucks that I can think about so I can feel really crap for a while? No one does that. Like, we want to feel good. It's like, yes, I want to enjoy this. Yes, I love doing this. Or, oh my God, talking to this person or hanging out over here makes me feel so good. They're the things we're chasing. They're the things we want more of in our lives. So how do we do that? It's by tapping into that creativity and that joy. So me being able to now do that, which is what I have been doing, is to tap into the creativity and allow that natural version of myself come through, instead of trying to find a way to fix everyone, because that's what I thought I had to do, because, I've been on the spiritual journey and I have all this knowledge. Let me just do this. But it wasn't. It was more of an essence of me really discovering who I was and really finding those things that bring me joy. Because before, in an existence where you are still partnered and you are still part of a family, you are two people trying to not become one, but you're both trying to coexist with different ideas and different thoughts and different passions, that, one may suddenly lose a lot of those passions or forget what those passions are, because they find maybe some communal ones, or maybe they're leaning more into the other person's passions. And even though you still like them and enjoy them and do them, you forget some of those things that really light you up. So that was part of my journey, was finding those things that really lit me up. But now that I'm here, and I swear to God, this has taken me so long to get to the point of what I wanted to talk about. But because of the light, the dark, and the luminescence, this morning, okay, the vision is clear. Now I get it. I get it on a deeper layer. And if I talk about this in 6 months, I'm going to get it again on a different layer. It's my spiral. It's going to be bigger. It's going to be deeper. It's going to have more. It's like a vortex. It's attaching more information to it and allowing the essence of it to truly come through. So I see, just imagine a big circle. Okay. And that is our existence, our full existence that we are aware of as a universe, a multiverse, a galaxy, however you want to look at our existence. It is infinite and complete, right? So imagine it as this circle, and I might try to do a drawing to really understand the image in my brain, but I don't think the images are going to match it. So I'm really going to try with my hands. That's why I'm doing video. Now, part of this existence, we know from science that there's a big ass portion of that of things that we don't know that is made up of dark energy and dark matter. So this existence has so many unknowns. However, let's focus on the things how I see and what I feel I know. So the reason why I was seeing all these things on the outside, this is how it's represented in my mind. So in this big old circle, here is the light grid. Okay, so imagine this other circle inside this circle. Then this light became really kind of crowded. So it is full of many, many things, but it's also full of lots of shadow. It's also full of, it's like the old Chinese whispers, right? So even though we have all these myths and legendary stories, like you can imagine religion and historical stories of other countries and legends, different religions or folklore, however you want to look at it, it gets distorted. Of course, over time, it's Chinese whispers. It gets distorted. The messages get a little skewed as they sort of come down the line. Because remember, we're looking at Earth, and that's just billions of years old. But Earth, like compared to the whole universe, is like nothing, right? So we're over here with the light grid. And this is the way I see it. This is my opinions. Don't come at me. This is how I see it. So the light went something different, because the way that we at least know with science is there's order and disorder, and there's chaos and order. And there are things that happen logically. There are things that happen illogically. And there is always evolution. It is always changing. Things are always moving. That's a one thing, that's a foundational thing that I can see with energy and with the vibrations of our existence, is it's always moving. That's why we are energy. Everything in this existence is moving. Even if you can't see it moving, you zoom in enough, there's going to be an element of it when you break it down into an atom or particle or whatever, it's going to be moving. So everything is moving. So the light becomes dark. So in my little circle, there's this light, there's this dark. They're overlapping. There is a difference. So imagine it's like looking at the light, dark and gray, if you will. There is a difference, though. There is a difference between the light and dark. And imagine the dark as a reflection of the light. So they're opposites. They're like a mirror. The luminescence I see is filling up this whole circle. So the luminescence covers the light, and I keep hitting my microphone, the light and the dark, but also this whole unknown existence. It is covering this whole other existence. This is how I see it all working in my mind. So then over in the light grid, which is where everything that's happening everywhere exists, if you could imagine how big the universe is first, then imagine how small the Earth is inside this light grid. Now, there is a lot of spiritual and new age beliefs with so many different topics, modalities, stories, way to awakening, the way that the body works, the way that we've evolved, or how we were created as humans. But I just want to give you the context to it of this is how I see it. So this is our light grid. This is our tiny little Earth. And we talk about the way that the energies of the planets, of the sun, and the moon affect this little tiny Earth. So we look at things like astrology. We look at things like the sun and that being our source energy. And we look at things like the moon and the way the moon affects us. That's because this Earth's here. We got the sun and the moon. We got the Milky Way, right? So within the stars and the things that are out there, when we're looking up outside Earth, we can see certain stars and existences. And being open spiritual people, we have allowed connections to other existences in other places, star places, or however you want to call it. The collectives that we see out there are also sort of in this realm of outside this Earth. So when people are talking about their connection to a certain star race, or the way that they connect to the sun, or the way that they connect to the moon, it makes sense because it's all in this little existence over here. You come out of that, it's all part of the light grid. So everything everyone talks about, whether they believe in this of the moon or not, or this of the sun or not, and trust me, I've seen all sides of all these things. So I understand there are conflicting awarenesses for different people, and that makes total sense to me. There is no, you're wrong, this is the only way it is. So everything that everyone talks about there, and I'm also going to add in religion, because I know there's a lot of movement towards seeing that element of our consciousness under that Christ light. So I get that. That's still all part of this existence. So it all makes sense depending on the person, where they're viewing it from, what their beliefs are, what they are holding on to, what they believe to be true for them, where they are in their life, what they connect to, who they are. All of it is 100% true. But for me, because, and I can't tell you why, but because my vision of it all is in a zoomed out state, to me, all of that is just a speck on the possibility of our knowings and our understandings, and the scope and the size of the realm and the other things that are out there. All of that doesn't resonate. And sometimes I talk to people and they say things and I'm like, nah, it doesn't resonate. And it's not like I'm trying to be different. It's just, I just see it bigger. And it is literally like imagining you on a screen and you are zooming out. You just keep zooming out. You zoom in. Oh, look, here's Anna at a desk talking on a microphone. Let's zoom out. Oh, here's the street. Here's the country, which is the same as people's beliefs. Oh, look, here's all the spiritual people. Let's zoom in. These are all the ones talking about God. Okay, let's zoom over here. These are all the ones talking about their connection to the moon or to the sun. Okay, let's zoom out. These are all the ones over here talking about their connection to the earth and being part of the inner earth realm, etc. And so all these things exist in there, but I'm out here, and I used to think it was like, oh, I feel like I'm on the outside looking in, like, what's happening, guys? Can I come join the party? Because I kind of feel left out here. And it's not. I finally get to understand that my awareness and my understanding is my awareness and my understanding. And I cannot tell you why. I cannot give you the purpose of that. But because of so many people talking about that show, The Chosen, I've only watched series 1. I can't find series 2 in Australia. We're so far behind. But I wanted to get the essence of religion. I grew up with 12 years of Catholic schooling. I do not remember most of anything that we were taught, to be quite honest. Then, of course, moving through spirituality and, you know, finding ourselves at religion. Ew, no, you're all bad. You're all dirty, creepy old men. The essence of what that show showed me was the reason why I'm speaking to you right now. All of these stories that we have historically, these myths, these legends, and you can look at it across any country, across any religion, any race, any progression of a country, looking at Indigenous people, or the, you know, as far back as we can go to what kind of personal race existed on this planet that we know of or that we can prove. They are all stories to help us and to teach us how to be in this existence right now. There is an underlining current of knowing that you are part of something bigger, but also knowing that you are the greatest part of this existence, and that everything in this world around you will be created by your belief, your awareness, and your understanding. Because vibrationally, if we are just these energetic vibrational frequencies, and we have the power to hold our own beliefs and our own understandings and our own knowings, well, then don't we have the power to create everything that we want around us? And that is one of the things that I 100% believe. And sometimes talking about some of the concepts of that are truly hard because they don't seem believable. But the only reason that these things aren't believable is because of the beliefs that we're currently holding. And you can look at it whatever way you want to look at it, as whether you can see yourself as a reincarnated soul, or you can see yourself as just an expression of the universe, allowing it to experience itself. Whichever way you are looking at it, it's still all just revolves around you. So you get to make that choice to create that reality around you. And I can tell you, the more you step into something new, the more you keep doing it, it starts to become your new normal. You think about your body in the way that it is constantly changing. You think about from, you know, when you were first created, and how much growth you have gone from a tiny little embryo into this human being that you are now. You look at the growth of who you've been through that time to where you are now, because there's science and biology within this human existence that is constantly evolving and changing, and we are the ones who get to hold all that power in making that creation something that we really want. So it's not just in the physical body, it's in our mental, our energetic, our etheric body as well, where we can constantly change it and allow it to grow. When we change those thoughts into something new or something different or something that we haven't done before, the more we keep doing it, the more it becomes second nature. How many things do you have right now that you know that you have done for the last 10 years or last 20 years? Because it just becomes habit. But once you start changing your thoughts around that, or making conscious decisions to do something different, eventually that new thing is going to become who you are. And then another 10 years down the track, you'll be, oh, I've been doing this for the last 10 years. And that's how we constantly evolve. And that's not just with changing our thoughts, it's with everything. Everything that we are, whether you look at it from a physical perspective or the way that we connect to the unknown, and it is literally unknown, and no one can tell you the answers to everything. No one in the world can tell you the answers to everything. But it is that consistent growth into allowing your new awarenesses and stepping into new choices and different decisions and different ideas and different thought patterns, and being open to listening to others so it can expand your knowledge and allow you to sort of go, interesting idea. I don't believe it, but that's an interesting idea, and it allows you to grow and evolve. I feel there are so many people who are stuck in one thought pattern, one idea, and that's not just people who aren't spiritual. I mean, in the spiritual as well, but spiritual world as well. But I don't think we can exist like that. We have to constantly evolve. We have to constantly grow. And part of that is allowing these thoughts and these ideas to come out. I don't think that we are meant to hold on to these ideas. There is a level of myself now that it's like there's a tap and I'm a bucket with a hole in it. Yes, I did start thinking of that nurse round. There's a hole in my bucket. But you have to imagine that that information is coming through. And if you are on the spiritual realm, if you are open to the acceptance of allowing this to come through, I've only just realized after watching that Chosen show, like how amazing that is, because I've taken a lot of the things that I've seen, felt, learned, moved through for granted. It's like, even though a lot of it sucks just so much and hurt physically and mentally and emotionally, the new awareness and understandings and the things that we can tap into, which is just really the basic of who we truly are, is so magical and so special. And I used to think, oh, you're weird. That's crazy. Yet now you can look at it as, oh my God, this is so amazing. Like, I need to share this because that is what we're here to do as whatever word you want to use. You can call yourself anything you want, but the way that we view the light workers, the starseeds, the empaths, the healers, whatever it is, if we are here and we are an open channel to receive these messages and we're talking about it, then we need to talk about it. We need to talk about it on the level that we receive it, not on the level of how's people going to accept that? And that is my newest realization in only the last few days, is to really let this message out exactly as you see it. So when that water's running through that bucket with that hole in it, you have to let it run out. It has to continually flow. If you stop it, what's going to happen? The water's going to try and come back up, and then you're going to have all sorts of mess. So you need to allow that information to come in and to come out. So that's why I've done this super long video on trying to explain exactly what I saw today, because my awareness and the way that I see it all is not going to resonate with many people. I get that, but I still need to speak it out. Not for any particular purpose, but the reason that we speak this out is to allow other people to step into their own knowledge and their own understandings and the things that they're passionate about, and start to see the possibilities that nothing is 100% correct. Nothing is pure solid. There's so much fluidity in who we are, and this is existence and our awarenesses, and we just need to allow that to flow. And that is my only goal, is to keep sharing this information in the hope that it does help others, because there's many of us, and many of us all have different voices and we all have different views. I like to sort of give it the analogy. So if you can imagine, like, just imagine Earth, right? And there's a mountain in the middle of it. So wherever you are and whatever you're doing, when you look at that mountain and you're describing it to someone else, it's going to look different. So if I'm over here and it's like morning and I'll be saying, oh, it's sunny and this is happening, and someone's on the other side of the world in winter at night and they're like, oh no, it's cold, it's wet, there's snow on it. That's exactly who we are when we are sharing our message. We're only doing it from our viewpoint, from what we see, from where we are. So we need to be more in acceptance of allowing the opinions of others, and just be open to receiving them. We don't need to accept them or take them on board as our own. Just be open to receiving them, and then allow your own message to come through, and then make sure that you speak it out, because that is the message that I am hearing a lot, is to speak it out. And it doesn't matter how stupid it sounds. It doesn't matter how it does not make sense. And that is one thing I've learned now from watching science shows, is nothing makes sense. It's not supposed to. That's our existence. It doesn't make sense. So now how I am seeing our existence here, this luminescent field, this whole space of unknown, the untapped creativity and the new things we can create. I can draw onto the light, I can draw into the dark, I can draw into the luminescent, but ultimately I'm just drawing on myself. The way that I see it now, before I used to think that we moved from being direct from a source to multidimensional source to a oneness source. Now I just see myself as being the source. We are all the source. I don't call on outside of myself for information, for new awarenesses or understandings. I am those awarenesses and understandings. And all of that other stuff that we can draw on are just tools to help us get to that place where we can really grasp the fact that everything around us is our own creation. And we get to choose what that looks like. We get to continually make those steps forward into new realities, new thought patterns, new connections, new experiences on that path to find those ultimate feelings of joy, love, and creativity. And if anything, I hope this video has given you a little bit of insight into how I see things, because it can be hard when you are seeing things that are totally different to others, or that when you speak about things and everyone has their opinion and wants to chime in and goes, oh no, because you're not doing this, you're not doing that. And as I keep going, as I still work through my layers and my existence and my understandings, I just solidify more and more and more the truth of who I am and what I see. And I know, even if not one other person sees it as I do, then that is totally fine. But this is my reality. It is my existence. And that is all I need to step into. So go find your own beliefs, your own reality, but be open to so many other possibilities. And if you have any questions or feedback, I'd love to hear it. Okay, that's enough from me. Thank you. Goodbye.